Hi everyone! Today we are going to be making babka. Jewish people from all over Europe make different kinds of sweet bread and babkas. This babka is pareve and we love to eat it for dessert on Shabbat. This babka is called kokosh, which is Hungarian babka. Follow along and enjoy! This babka is really yummy, but it has a ton of sugar, so if you're looking to eat less sugar, this is not for you, but it's delicious. Here's the recipe, but you can also find it attached to the video. So first, you're going to want to get out all your ingredients. So you want to have 1 3/4 cups of flour, a teaspoon of salt, 1 1/4 teaspoon of instant dry yeast, which you want to combine with a 1/4 cup of warm water and a 1/4 cup of sugar. Then you're going to want 1 teaspoon of vanilla, a 1/4 cup of vegetable oil, 2 eggs, and 1 egg whisked for the egg wash. And make sure you wash your hands. You're also going to want to print out the recipe, which I have here. So the first thing you're going to do once you have all your ingredients out is mix a 1/4 cup of warm water with a 1/4 cup of sugar and a teaspoon and a 1/4 of instant dry yeast. In the recipe, it says to have the yeast be in the big bowl where you're making everything else. Now, we didn't do that. We put it in a separate bowl, but you can do either. And this is what the yeast should look like when you just put it in with the water and the sugar. This is what the yeast should look like after 10 minutes, and it should be bubbling a little, and if it looks a little bit different, don't worry. So the next step is, while you're having the yeast sit aside, you're going to add eggs and oils into our big mixing bowl. So, let's do that now. I've now waited 10 minutes, and I'm going to pour my yeast into the oil and egg mixture. After mixing together the eggs, the oil, and the yeast, I'm now going to add the flour and the salt to the mixture. So you're going to need a 1 3/4 cups of flour and 1 teaspoon of salt. The dough hook, so it got stuck to the mixers, but it says to knead it for 8 minutes. So we're just going to put it onto the table after sprinkling flour and then knead it on the table with our hands. The dough is really sticky, so you want to make sure you put a lot of flour on the table and on your hands. And to knead the dough, if you're doing it by hand, you're going to want to fold it over and keep kind of doing that and pushing on it as you knead the dough. So we've now put a little bit of oil into the bowl and rubbed it around with a paper towel. And now I'm going to put my dough, which is all kneaded and I've made into a nice circle, into the middle of the bowl. And we're going to leave it for just 30 minutes. We're going to cover the dough as well, and now just leave it to rise for 30 minutes. So we're going to be making the filling as we wait for the dough to rise. Now we're going to be making the filling. So you're going to put 2 1/4 cups of granulated sugar into your mix first. You can stop. Now we are going to have 1 cup of cocoa powder and add it to the sugar mix. Now we're going to add a cup of vegetable oil, a 1/4 teaspoon of sea salt, and a 1/4 teaspoon of espresso powder. We don't have that, so we're going to use instant coffee. You're going to want a parent to help you with the next step because you're going to need 2 egg whites. And you're going to need to separate the egg yolk from the egg white, and then we're going to pour the egg whites in. You want the egg whites. So you're going to want 2 bowls, and you crack the egg. Try and do it in the middle. And then you have 1 bowl. You're going to try and put your egg white. into your filling.
Now mix.
Now we're going to be making the streusel. So we're going to be using margarine because we want it to be parve, but you can also use butter. So if you're going to be using margarine, it's a 1/4 cup of margarine. Streusel is the topping that's going to be on our babka. So now you're going to mix everything together.
And this is what it should look like.
So we have our dough and it's been rising for 30 minutes now. It hasn't grown a lot, but that's okay. We also have our filling mix, and we don't have parchment paper, so we just put a little bit of oil on our tin, and we're going to be using that. But if you have parchment paper, you should use that. Now we're going to roll it out using a rolling pin until it's really thin. So now we have our dough, and we're going to put the filling over half of the dough with a spatula. It's kind of hard to spread. Now, once you've spread it all over, you're going to carefully take the top half, or the half that doesn't have anything on it, and try and flip it over the bottom half. Oh, pretty good. You're going to be using the rolling pin to flatten it out slightly. Now we're going to be rolling it into a log.
And it should look something like this.
So if you were using parchment paper, you now want to transfer it over onto your baking tin. And now we're going to use our egg wash. We're using the yolks that we had put aside when we were using the egg whites. And so I'm now just going to brush that on. Yeah. Sprinkle our streusel topping on top of our babka.
It should look a bit like this. Great job, everyone.
Now we're ready to go. So you're going to bake it for 30 to 35 minutes until the dough is golden brown and the crumbs are lightly colored. Once it's out of the oven, we're going to allow it to cool before we slice it. Good job, everyone, on making your babka. Make sure to have your parents put it in the oven.
Once it is ready, have a parent take it out of the oven. And great job, you've completely made your babka. I hope you enjoy.